What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of StoryHive on location in Vancouver with beats, eats, and more. We are broadcasting live right now from the unceded ancestral lands of the Musqueam, the Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish First Nations. I am your host, Kazi, and I am joined today by the one and only Jheric Hizon. We are hanging out here right now at VS Creative Labs on Main Street in East Van. Big shout outs to MJ, to PJ, and to Dave for hosting us.
Yay.
To introduce our guest, he is a dynamic dancer, educator, and creative leader based here in Vancouver, BC. As the owner of Boogaloo Academy, he shaped and inspired the next generation of movers. And truthfully, he's been a teacher to many of our teachers within the hip-hop and breaking community. A dedicated member of the legendary crew Now or Never, his work spans from cyphers to the world stage, including choreography for the 2010 Winter Olympics closing ceremonies. Please make some noise for Jheric! I feel like we should start from the very beginning.
Very beginning.
Yeah, of what first pulled you into breaking and hip-hop culture and what kept you in it?
I think it was watching the kids in my neighborhood, the older kids.
This was in the Philippines?
This is in the Philippines. Yeah. And they entered a dance competition on TV. And so they were like the star, the neighborhood heroes, right? And ever since then, I'm like, oh, can I join? Can I join? I want, asking them to teach me what they do. And then also during that time, the movie Breaking Electric Boogaloo.
Okay.
Hence the name, Boogaloo Academy, right? Yeah.
Oh so my gosh, I didn't know that.
Came around years later. But yeah, so that's how I kind of got started. And, the big kids finally let me in. And they kind of coached me and taught me. And I was the youngest member. And from there, I just kind of fell in love with it and never stopped.
So then when did you move here to Canada?
I moved here in 1986.
Okay.
And it was the last month of Expo 86.
Okay.
So I got to see that. Yeah. And then, the next month it was like September and had to go to school. When I was in school, I figured, there's going to be people that were breaking here and nobody.
Like nobody here was breaking it?
In my school, anyway. It was like 1986. And I think everybody in my school were all listening to heavy metal music. Yeah. So I kind of like stopped too. And it was not until 2 years later in grade 10 when there was a slew of nightclubs that opened for teenagers. And it was called Changes Nightclub.
Okay.
And it was across Canada. And they had one in Surrey and they had one in Gastown and it was called Changes.
And this was like a all ages club or something?
No, you have to be 18 and under, I believe.
Oh.
And you have to show your go-card to get in.
What? Oh my gosh, you just threw me back to go-karts even. Do they even exist?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it was like right across the, where I lived. So we would go every weekend and watch and dance. And then there would be like dancers that were older than I was and we would watch them and I'm like, wow. So there is like hip hop, right? What? So that kind of got me back into that because I met a whole bunch of other dancers and and then one kid came from a different school and on our last, I guess, senior year was grade 10 and then I had to go to grade 11 and 12. But in my school, we only had up to grade 10. He came to my school and I recognized him right away because I was like, yeah, I saw you compete at that club, at that teen club. And then we became friends. We started dancing together and that's when, my first ever dance crew was created and we were called Front Page.
Okay, and what was the name of this person that became your friend?
His name is Chris Tavera. So shout out to Chris Tavera. He's like, kind of like my best friend and also he introduced me to hip hop, I would go home back to his place after school and he would have all these records and he had a Technique 1200 turntable. He would play all the stuff. And I'm like, how do you get these records? And it was part of a pool.
A record pool.
A record pool.
Oh, cool.
But the thing is, we were in grade 10 and he had like, all the latest hip hop records that would come out.
From Front Page.
Yeah.
How did you know that like hip hop was going to be something that you wanted as your life path?
Well, we started entering a lot of dance competitions. We entered a lot of the P&E dance competitions that they would throw every summer. A lot of the Filipino festivals back in the day, and we would win a lot of them. And also going to actual nightclubs when we were underage.
Yeah.
I had my fake ID.
Yeah.
And we would compete against adults, and my crew would win. So every week we would have money that we won from the clubs. That was our allowance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then from there, I just want the timeline now, Jheric.
So we go to a club downtown. It's like one of these teen clubs at 86th Street. And there was a kid that was doing all these just really crazy steps and breaking moves. And we thought, breaking was it was dead. But here he was breaking. So we kind of got to meet him, and we found out he was from San Francisco, or he moved from San Francisco. And he was living in Vancouver for a while. And he gave us a whole bunch of tapes.
What's his name, this person?
Trying to remember, but it was he actually, one of my really good friends knows him well, because he was the one, he actually passed it to Nelson. So Nelson is the guy that was in my team, and he was the one that me and him started our first breaking crew, and we were called Wild Style. That was 91, 92, 93, around that time.
Yeah.
And when he got a hold of these tapes, watched them, and everything was all about breaking. And we didn't realize that, when it stopped, that he just kind of went underground, but it was kept alive, and in this tape, it was a crew from, they were called Rock Force.
Yep.
Yeah. So I was like, all right. So that was one of our first inspirations, watching this. And then seeing the tapes, and then trying to pretty much I used to break, let's get back into it. So we got back into that. And then later on, a couple of years after that, it was Much Music, when they had Bag of Tricks at Rap City?
At Rap City with Master T, the host.
And they brought him inside the studio, and we were like, wow, so Toronto is full on in that scene, right? So then we kind of started here again. And back then, it was really only 2 crews, and then 3 that I could remember that was breaking in the clubs. And now we were 19, 20, we were legal, we can get in the clubs, right?
And those crews were?
It was Wild Style, which is my crew, and it was Contents Under Pressure.
Yes,
it was
which is Flip Out's
Flip
crew.
Out, Rob Briss, Jose, all those guys. Yeah, Deados. Yeah. And we were rivals. Yeah. Now we're all friends. We're super friends, as Flip Out likes to call it,
Yeah. So before the organized battles, y'all would see each other at the club and battle?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And it was all hip hop. Nobody was breaking.
Okay.
Until that time. And I think we all, because back then it was the golden era. And it was we all loved hip hop so much that, they were rapping, they were doing graffiti, they were DJing. And in our crew, we were doing the same thing. I was also part of a rap group, and we had an album.
Really?
Yeah.
Yo, that's right.
Yeah.
What was it called?
It was called Play School. That was the name of our rap group. So I belonged to a hip hop / breaking team, and I had a rap group as well. And we were also dancers. Yeah.
That's sick.
So we did everything when we were, younger, just trying to, get in where we kind of fit in, right?
Yeah.
And then, but for us, it was more breaking was it for us.
So this is now the mid 90s going into the later 90s.
Yes.
And then how about entering the 2000s? Where are we at then?
Entering the 2000s, this is when the now or never phase came in.
Yes. Tell us about this.
I was actually leaving and going to be working in Japan. I taught there for 3 years, but I was leaving. I heard about this group called NON. I lived in Japan till 2006. When I came back, NON was the big breaking crew in the city. And so I came, and I think there was a competition. I think it was called Hip Hop International, and NON was competing in the crew versus crew battle. And if you won, you get to go to California and represent your country. So NON won that one. And I supported them, and I was like, well, if you guys are trying to fundraise, I'll give you guys some money to go there. And then I ended up actually going with them to support and just be part of it. And then that's when they asked me would you like to battle with us? So that's the kind of when they put me down in that crew. So I believe that was like 2006 or 8? It's like, yeah.
Yeah, the early 2000s.
Yeah. And then we ended up battling and making like top 4. I think top 4. It was pretty good. We ended up battling a crew called California, who was also our friends. They won the whole thing.
That's a good name.
California, they were awesome. They won the whole thing. But anyone kept on,
Yeah, going. And still going.
It's still going. Now we have like the new younger members.
Yeah. What's crazy is through 115 interviews, there's a good chunk of them that have been different dancers in our community. And a bunch of them have given us their origin stories. And at some point, a lot of them mention your name in it. And now what's really cool is, in my mind, I'm starting to weave together this history and how these different dancers intersect, who's learned from who, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And what comes to mind is thinking about Natasha, Natasha Gori, shout outs, she was sharing about how you were teaching at Samantha Gori's school, and was one of the first teachers.
So how that turned out was...
And that she met you clubbing. Yes.
Well, yeah, she did, but I don't remember it, but I know, I'm pretty sure in passing she's mentioned that.
Yeah.
But what had happened is it was in 1991 that my crew, Front Page, the hip hop dance crew, we entered this competition in Metrotown. So there was like 30 dance groups on the Saturday finals. And at the end, it was my team, Front Page, that won the whole thing. And the thing was, I think the prize was $1,500, a mountain bike. Yeah. And then we get to dance with this, her name is Mitsu. And she was like a Canadian singer from Montreal. And then after that, I was working at a Foot Locker in the mall. And Samantha comes over and sees me and recognized me, or she knew that I was working there. And she came and said, I'm opening up a hip hop studio. I would like to invite you to come and teach. And I've seen you guys at the Metrotown thing. And okay, so I went. And it was my first time being at a dance studio. Like, I had no idea how to teach because we never actually taught, we just taught ourselves. Yeah. So that there's mirrors in front of us. We're like, wow, this is awesome, right? Because usually we just practice in our garage. No mirrors. So we didn't even know what we looked like. But now there's mirrors and not being able to count 5, 6, 7, 8. It just be like, do this, and this. And when you hear this part of the music, you go like this, right? So that's how we taught the choreography. So, and then from there, I started teaching at Samantha's studio, and it was called Pure Dance. Yep. I was there for years. And then I find out years later, the street category in Surrey, they called it Pure Dance Award after the studio. Wow. And now it's like the biggest hip hop, at the Surrey Dance Festival. That's really cool. Yeah. That's really cool. That's legacy right there. Yeah. I would love to know your earliest memory of dancing at Robson Square. And how do you feel now looking back? Oh, I know exactly how that started. Yeah. So me and my, the guy that I would give credit to is Nelson Cortez. Shout out. So Nelson Cortez is the one that actually started practicing there by himself, and he told us about it, and we started practicing there. And at the first time we would get in trouble because the security guards would kick us out for using the electricity. And sometimes, when you're like battle rock each other, it looks like you're fighting. Right. So they would think, oh, there's a fight going on, and they would come and break it up. But we're like, no, we're just practicing. So that's one of them. It was a New Year's Eve party. We were downtown, celebrating New Year's, and the buses stopped running. And the SkyTrain stopped running, so we had to wait. He lived in Richmond, so his bus, there was no SkyTrain then, so we had to take a bus. And he would be waiting for a couple of hours. On our end, SkyTrains to Surrey would always be going, so we went home. He ended up staying, and he found Robson Street, or Robson Ice Rink, and he started practicing there. What? And that time, there was no ice there, right? I think it wasn't brought back until like the Olympics, 2010. But then it was already shut down. There's no more. So he found that place to practice. And then he told us after, and then he brought us there, and we started practicing there. And from there, it just kind of grew.
And now seeing what it's evolved into. How do you feel
with all the Vancouver Dance Festival that has happened, it's like amazing, right? And now it's like, it's funny because I've traveled to a lot of places, and when I say I'm from Vancouver, they go, Vancouver ice rink. Like they know, you know, not everybody, but like the dancers do know, especially like in Japan too. Yeah, so they know. It's amazing. So I was like, wow, okay. Yeah. So that was that history of that.
From that first time of learning, teaching through Mama Sam to now, all of these years under your belt, how do you balance preserving the foundations and lineage while also encouraging the students to innovate?
Right. So before I would be teaching a lot of like teens to adults. And now I kind of gave, well, I mean, I have an adult group that I still teach, but I gave up a lot of the teens to some of my newer teachers and stuff. And I focused again on teaching kids, because that's how I first started with, you know, pure dance. It was like teaching kids who were like 5 years old. And then from there, they became teenagers. So I'm teaching 5-year-old kids to 16. And what I find when I'm teaching them is like, we just have a lot of fun first, you know, just teaching them basic movements. Before I would go, it's just choreography. But now I would focus more on the movement, where I would teach them bounce, you know, like the basic foundation of hip hop. Bounce, and, you know, we would make our own names for it. And to them, it's fun for them, so it really engages the kids, right? Because I noticed, like, once the kids, they lose focus and they're not happy anymore, they're done.
Yeah.
They're going to find
chaos.
something else. Yes. So now I've kind of mastered it and how to, you know, engage with the kids. And it's worked, you know, it's worked really great for me. So any kid you give me, guaranteed within 2 weeks, I can make them dance. You know, like I'm 100% confidence that you give me somebody that's never danced before, by the end of 2 weeks, they'll be doing dance routines and stuff.
What are you inspired by from the next generation?
It's just, a lot of them is like the way of, I guess, developing and like taking it in is very different now. Like some kids are really, really focused that sometimes I'm like, oh man, I have not enough material to teach you. I should have prepared more, because they're really hungry, you know? And this is the one, I mean, not everybody, but the ones that are really focused on dance and they want it, and especially now that you get a lot of dance influence from movies or TV shows, when they see that, they're really, really focused and they really want to do this. So a lot of the stuff, when kids come to my studio and parents go, I don't know where he learned how to do this. And I'm like, okay, show me what you do. And they're doing coffee grinders, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, how'd you learn how to do that? And even them, they're like, I think I saw it somewhere, or I don't know, I just spun. And they're doing it. So then I go, okay, well, let me teach you the right way of doing that. Because they already have the foundation, and sometimes you don't know where it comes from. You know, maybe they see it somewhere else from, you know, watching other people do it. And then they just practice that move, or they see it on a TV show somewhere. So when they come to the studio, they're like, oh, I can do this. And I'm like, all right, let's continue that. Now let's add on a little bit more. So now I really focus on foundation. And then, and it's great. Because by the end of the year, when we have to do a showcase, a recital, then they have a whole routine, and, you know, I'll make them freestyle. So that's one big thing too, is like, I make sure that all my kids knows how to freestyle. You know, that's how I learned before I even learned choreography, right? Before, do this, do that. I wasn't counting. I was just like listening to the music, right?
I want to know about Paris. You were there for the 2024 Olympics.
Yeah.
And you got to be in Phil Wizard's corner, which I heard it was a tight guest list to be able to be up there. And for anyone who doesn't know, Phil Wizard is our gold medalist. He took home the gold during the 2024 Paris Olympics when breaking was part of it.
Yep.
And it is now no longer ... We don't know the future. I would love to know what that experience was like for you, and especially to witness Phil up on that stage, that world stage.
So I wasn't per se in his corner, but I was at one of the spectators.
You know, emotionally, spiritually, energetically. Yeah.
But also, I was Phil Wizard's teacher when he was 10 years old.
Right.
So he came from, you know, A-Star back then before it was Boogaloo. And he, you know, so I claim that I opened the hip hop doors for him. So, I mean, if you were to ask him about the story of how he got into it, he would say he was influenced by NON, by watching us do street shows on Robson Square. Because we used to do that all the time, every summer. So he saw us there. And then a week later, I was actually at his school teaching hip hop dance.
Serendipitous. Yeah.
And then from there, he came over to the studio and he started taking my classes. You know, he was like 10, 11. He was there for a couple of years. And then when he, you know, breaking, he found the calling of breaking. He ventured on his own at Robson Square, right? That's where everybody goes and practice. And yeah. And now he's known as the Phil Wizard, right? But yeah, like during the 24 Olympics, as soon as the tickets were out, I was the first in line to get my tickets and what is in his corner. And actually, Tayo, who was in my crew, he was actually the coach for he was the Olympic coach. And he was there, and you know, and when he won that medal, me and him, we partied that night with him.
That's amazing.
But yeah, being there to witness breaking, being on that stage, and also seeing all the OGs from the past, they were there supporting it. So they, you know, so it wasn't, oh no, we don't want this to be here. They all wanted it to be there. You know, I think that was the goal from the very, very beginning. It just didn't know how it was going to get there, but you know, now it is, so now it was. And you know, we have our Canada won the gold for breaking. Can you believe that?
Yeah. Did you ever imagine that when you were younger, that it could
be an Olympics?
Yeah.
I mean, I imagined it, you know. I always thought it should have been. And then when the ball started rolling that, hey, it could be in the Olympics, then, you know, we did everything that we could to be like, yeah, let's get this there. You know, so.
What excites you most about where hip hop and breaking are headed right now?
Everything, because I think now, you know, there's, it's easily accessible now. You know, you want to start something, you can go to your local dance studio. Everybody offers hip hop. You know, you go to your local b-boy practices where everybody comes and practice. So it's like, it's there. You know, internet made it easy for it to be accessible. The talent that's coming out, everybody's really pushing themselves to do the next big thing. Right? So I think it's just, hip hop is still very young, you know, as far as the dance goes, you know, it's like what, 52 years old, right? 53 years old. And it's still got a long ways to go. And I believe that it's going to just keep elevating.
For me, I'm fascinated by your generation. And like, I can't imagine what that's like to have been part of the early beginnings of something and then to see it very quickly evolve into a thing that has like infiltrated the world and infiltrated like culture, popular culture, you know? And I don't know, it's just like what even compares to that right now, like that's being created. You know, we're living in the technological era. And I mean, I think the only thing I could relate to is seeing how social media has evolved, because I actually know a time pre-social media, you know? And even more so, the fact that you've been able to travel all over the world and experience so many dance cultures and scenes. What makes Van City stand out that you notice now from those travels that you feel most proud of? And what things can we adopt to build ourselves up?
That's a good one, because actually everywhere I've been to, and I always say this, Vancouver really has that special bond with each other. Like the community is really, really strong. Everywhere I go, let's say I want to practice somewhere, I would, you know, talk to the b-boy friends that I have, and I'm like, okay, where can we practice? And they would tell me, all right, well, we have a practice spot. I go, do you guys have a regular practice spot where everybody comes or goes? And they're like, yeah, but we don't go there. I'm like, okay, well, why not? And they're like, well, we're not welcome there. I'm like, what do you mean you're not welcome there? Well, those are, you know, like they're a rival, so we can't practice with them. And I'm like, Oh, that's weird because in Vancouver, we have a spot where when we battle each other, we have rivals, we're still practicing at the same spot. And there's no, maybe there is beef, but we don't. When we're practicing, we're practicing.
Yeah, you're there, I'm here.
Yeah. And when you're in a battle, that's when you let off.
Yeah.
But everywhere that I've been to, the attitude is like that. I don't know now if it's still, but in the past, I'm like, wow, you guys just practice where you are. Or we have your own studio and and they're not welcome here, or we're not welcome there. It's like, well, that's different from Vancouver. Because here, like I said, we have the Robson Ice Rink. Everybody goes there. I used to throw practices at where I used to work at Harbor Dance Center, and I would open it to everyone. Everybody pays their $2, $3, and you all practice together. Now my brother runs Bonser. It's the same thing. I used to run Bonser back in the day because I used to first work there. And then when I moved to Japan, I gave it to him. So now he's been running it ever since, right? And everybody still practices there, no matter if you're in a different crew or whatever, you're there. So that's one thing. And it's not just breaking community. It's like, it's the whole dance community, right?
Yeah.
And everybody knows each other, or has now, because we have a little bit more people that, I've heard of him. But it's when we practice, we're together. So Vancouver, out of all the places that I've been to, is very, very special when it comes to like the community. So we really do have a community here.
What legacy do you hope you're building, whether intentionally or unintentionally?
I just want to share my love of hip hop and dance to whoever wants to listen and learn from me. As far as legacy goes, it's like, we don't really plan or start to be like, I'm going to do this, I can leave this behind. It's me. I really love this culture. And that's it. If people can get inspired by that, or learn from something I do and maybe build on top of that, then great. That's it.
That's actually true. It's like, who really plans that legacy that you leave behind? You really don't know. Just like how you said, this award showed up and that they named it that, and you don't even know.
I didn't know until he presented to me. I'm like, what is this? And they're like, oh, it's been happening for years. I'm like, what? So I was really proud of that. I'm like, pure dance.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, Sam, we made that happen.
Oh my gosh.
And I think it's still there. I think they still do that for the hip hop award. That's the highest award, is the Pure Dance Award. Yeah. It's really awesome.
I definitely want to get in a rapid fire round with you.
Oh, okay.
Fun questions that you cannot overthink.
Okay.
Just let it go,
How many are we talking here?
I don't know, a handful. But sneakers you can always trust.
Yes. Nike.
Song that always gets you moving.
Eric B. and Rakim.
One habit every dancer should build.
Focus.
Yes, especially in today's day and age.
Focus.
One thing great students always do.
One thing great students always do, they ask a lot of questions.
One teacher everyone should experience a class with.
Me.
Something I wish I learned earlier in life.
The first lesson I learned was the world's not fair. And once I learned that, everything was okay.
A healthy dance community looks like?
Vancouver. Yeah. The Vancouver scene, for sure.
Aww. One piece of advice for the next generation of dance community leaders.
I guess just stay honest and be truthful. And, also always kind of remember where you come from. And who taught you, who mentored you, because I always do that. If people ask me about who did you learn from, I'll always say who, because it's the each one teach one thing, where you get taught, you pass it on, and you hopefully you're passing, the knowledge that you got right. And if it doesn't seem right, question it, for sure.
Dude, thank you so much. This has been an awesome hour of finally getting you in the seat, being able to get to know your story, more of Van City's dance history, which is super important. And now we have that locked and clocked, baby.
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course. I definitely know that there are so many more creatives whose stories we want to share on this platform. For anyone who's out there watching and You know, you have a story to share. We have a QR code that will show up on the edit of this video. You can scan that, and there's a form there you can fill out to apply to be on the hot seat and sit down next to me. But yeah, for now, I'm super grateful to Jheric for spending time with us. Big shout outs as well as to VS Creative, who's hosted us in this space. And lastly, I want to big up Jem and Cameron, who's our live stream camera operator.
Let's go, Josh.
Yeah. It has been awesome being here, and we really appreciate everyone who's tuned in, who's watching the live stream replay. We appreciate you. Big shout outs to TELUS STORYHIVE for powering today's episode. Y'all have been watching StoryHive on location Vancouver with Beats, Eats, and more.